Hello students, good morning. Today we are going to study the new chapter number 11, that is force and pressure, and this is the first part of this chapter. And in this chapter we are going to study about that what is force, what are the types of force and what are the effects of force. We are going to discuss about that pressure, what is liquid pressure, what is atmospheric pressure. So these things that we are going to discuss in this chapter one by one. So firstly we will know that what is force. Now in this chapter we will know that what is force. So firstly we will know that how we'll define that what is force. Force means the push and pull on any object is commonly known as force. And the forces are used in our daily everyday actions like pushing, pulling, lifting, stretching, twisting, pressing. For example, a force is used when we push or kick a football. A force is used when we pull a door. A force is used when we lift a box from a floor. A force is used when we stretch a rubber band. A force is used when we twist a wet cloth to squeeze out water. A force is used when we press a brake pedal of a car. The fallen leaves of the trees flies away with wind because of the force of the wind pushes them away. So these are the certain examples that shows the force, and we can define the force like this. A push or pull on an object is commonly known as force. Now I am going to give you one example. Suppose that if we want to open a door, we have to push the door handle with our hand, and when we want to close the door, then we have to pull the door handle with our hand. This means that to move an object, it has either to be pushed or pulled. A pull or push on an object is commonly known as force. So when we open or close the door by applying the force, when we push the door to open it, we applying the force on the door in a direction away from us, and when we pull the door to close it, then we exert a force on the door in a direction towards us. Now we are going to know that the force is mainly due to the interaction. So firstly we know that interaction, what do you mean by interaction? Interaction means reciprocal action. Interaction mainly involves the two objects, and in interaction each object acts in such a way as to have an effect on other object. So interaction means to act on each other. Force is mainly due to interaction. Interaction of one object with another object results in a force between the two objects. So the force mainly occurs due to the interaction between the two objects. In other ways, we can say that the force arises due to the interaction between the two objects, and at least two objects must interact with each other for the force to come into play. If there is no interaction between the two objects, then no force shows its effect. So this will be clear to you with the help of this example. In the first example, suppose that the man is standing behind a stationary car. Since there is no interaction between the man and the car, so the no force acts on the car. Hence the car does not move. Suppose that the man pushes the car with his hands, due to which the car starts moving, and when the man pushes the car, there is interaction between the man and the car, and due to the interaction a force arises which acts on the car and makes it to move in the direction of the applied force. So the man has to push the car to make it move. Here the two objects which are interacting for the force to come into play and shows its effect are the man and the car. So what are the two objects here? The two objects are man and the car. Now there is another example. If both the objects are capable of applying the force on each other, then the interaction between them can be of pushing or pulling. For example, the two boys are interacting by applying the force on each other by pushing each other. On the other hand, the man and the cow are also interacting, but they are applying the force on each other by pulling each other. So in this case, the man is pulling the cow and the cow is pulling the man. So All these examples that shows that the force is due to the interaction between the two objects. Now the second case that we are going to know about, that the force has a magnitude as well as the direction. So firstly we will know that what is magnitude. Magnitude, the strength of the force. The strength of the force is commonly known as magnitude. An adult man can apply a large force on an object, whereas the child can apply a small force on an object. This means that the force can be larger or smaller than other force, and this is known as the strength of the force, and the strength of the force is expressed by its magnitude. The magnitude of the force is expressed in the SI unit of force, and the SI unit of the force is Newton. And we can define the Newton like this: 1 Newton is the force which can make the object of 1 kilogram of mass to move at the speed of 1 meter per second. So along with the magnitude of the force, the direction in which the force acts is also specified. This is because if the magnitude or direction of the force changes, the effect that is produced by the force also changes. So the force arises, either the force can act in the same direction or the force can act in opposite direction. So two forces acted on the object, either the two forces acts in the same direction or the two forces acts in opposite direction. Now one by one we are going to know that if the two objects apply the force in the same direction, then what will happen, and if the two forces applied to an object from the opposite direction, then what will happen. So first case is, if the two forces applied to an object act in the same direction, then in this case the resultant force acting on the object is equal to the sum of two forces. This will be explained as follows with the help of this example. Suppose that there is a heavy box which one man can move only by pushing it very hard. Now if two men push this heavy box in the same direction, it becomes much easier to push the heavy box. This is because when the two men apply their forces to push together in the same direction, the two forces add up to provide a much bigger force, and this bigger force can move the heavy box very easily. Second case is, when two forces applied to an object act in opposite direction, then the net force acting on the object is equal to the difference of two forces. In other words, when the two forces act in opposite direction, their effective magnitude decreases. In the first case, we have studied that the two forces that is applied to an object in the same direction, their effective magnitude increases. And in this case, when the two forces apply to an object in opposite direction, the effective magnitude decreases. Now suppose that there is a heavy box lying on a ground. Let two men push this box from opposite direction, one from left side and other from right side. Assuming that one of the men is stronger of two applies a larger pushing force than other man, we can say that the box will move in that direction in which the larger force is applied by the stronger man. The box will, however, move very slowly in this case, because the net force that is acting on the object in this case is equal to the difference in magnitude of two forces applied by the two men. So here the net force is small. So in this case the net force is small. Third case is what? If the two force applied to an object is in equal magnitude and acting in opposite direction, so here the net force that is acting on that object is 0. Since the net force acting on the object is 0, in this case the object does not move at all, because no any force is acting on the object here in this case. So in this case the object does not move at all and it remains same position. For example, if the two men push a heavy box from opposite direction by applying exactly the equal forces, then the heavy box will not move at all and it will remain where it was. Now there is a familiar example in which the two equal force acting in opposite directions provided by the game. That game is known as tug of war. In this game, the two teams of persons pull a rope in opposite direction. The members of both the teams try to pull the rope in the direction, and when the two teams pull the rope equally hard by applying the equal force, the rope does not move in any direction. So at this point of time, the two teams are applying the equal force but opposite forces to the rope, due to which the net force acting on the rope is zero and hence the rope does not move. So these two examples shows that if the two force applied on an object are in equal magnitude and act in opposite direction, then the net force that is acting on the object is zero. Now we are going to study about the effects of force. The force cannot be seen. We are not able to see the force. The force can be judged by its effect it can produce in various objects, and there are different effects of the force, in which the first one is the force can move a stationary object. Stationary means the object which is at rest position, so it makes the stationary object to move. Second, the force can stop a moving object. Third, a force can change the speed of the moving object. Fourth, a force can change the direction of moving object. And fifth one is the force can change the shape and size of the object. So all these effects of the force that we are going to discuss in this chapter one by one by taking the certain examples. Now here there are some pictures that shows you the effects of the force. First one is pressing the switch. Pressing the switch means we are applying the force. Launching the rocket, pushing a trolley, knocking a nail, kicking a ball. In all these cases, the two objects are in interaction, interact with each other, and due to the interaction, the force is applied. Here, there are some pictures that shows you tug of war, drawing back bow, pulling a box, raising a flag. So all these pictures shows you that the force comes into play when the two objects are in contact with each other or they interact with each other. For example, tug of war game, the persons are pulling the rope, the hands of the persons are in contact with the rope. Now here, opening the door, in this case also the hand of a person are in contact with a door. So interaction is must to apply the force on any object. Now we are going to study about the effects of the force. Just I have told you that what are the different effects of the force. The effects of the force are it changes the shape temporarily, changes the shape permanently, change the direction of a moving object, it changes the speed of the moving object, and it stops a moving object or makes a stationary object to move. So these all these effects can be explained by taking the following examples. Now one by one I am going to take the example to explain you all the topics. First one is the force can move a stationary object. For example, take a rubber ball or place it on a table. Now gently push that ball along the surface of the table. We'll observe that the ball begins to move. Thus, the ball at rest or a stationary ball begins to move when a force of push is applied to it. So this example shows that the force that makes a stationary object to move. We can take the another example also. For example, while taking a penalty kick in a football match, the player applies a force on a stationary football. Before being hit, the football is at rest and its speed is zero. The force that is applied by the player to make the football to move towards the goal. So thus, if we kick a stationary football kept on the ground, then the football starts moving. In this case, the force of our foot makes the stationary balls to move. This is also the another example that shows you that the force can move a stationary object. Now second effect of the force is the force can stop a moving object. It can also stop a moving object, and this can be explained with the help of this example. Take a rubber ball and place it on a table and push the rubber ball gently so that it starts moving. Now place your palm in the front of moving ball. We will observe that moving ball comes to stop, and actually the palm that is held in the path of the moving rubber ball applies a force to the moving ball, and this force stops the moving ball. Thus the moving ball stops when the force is applied to it. In a football match, when the goalkeeper dives or jumps up to save the goal, he applies the force to the moving football with his hands. This force applied by the goalkeeper helps in stopping the moving football and saves the goal being scored. Thus, stopping a moving football by a goalkeeper demonstrates that a force can stop the moving object. So we can say that the force can also stop the moving object. A cricket football moving on a ground stops automatically after some time. In this case, what happens? The force of friction of the ground that stops the moving cricket ball. So we can say that the force can stop the moving object. So this is the second effect of the force. Third effect is a force can change the speed of the moving object. It can also change the speed of the moving object, and this can be explained to you with the help of this example. Suppose that we are moving on a bicycle at certain speed. Now if someone pushes the moving bicycle from behind, the speed of the bicycle increases and it will move faster. On the other hand, if someone pulls the moving bicycle from behind, then the speed of the bicycle decreases and it will move slower. Thus the push or pull can change the speed of a moving bicycle, and this push or pull is known as force. So we can say that the force can change the speed of a moving object. Now fourth effect is the force can change the direction of moving object. In a cricket match, when the moving cricket ball is hit by a bat, the direction of the cricket ball changes and it goes in another direction. In this case, the force that is exerted by the bat changes the direction of the moving cricket ball. In the game of carom, when we take a rebound, then the direction of the striker changes. This is because the edge of the carom board exerts the force on the striker. And if we blow air from our mouth on the smoke rising up from a burning agarbatti, then the direction of the motion of the spoke also changes. So all these examples shows that the force can change the direction of the moving object. Now fifth effect of the force is the force can change the shape and size of the object. If we take a light spring and pull it at both the ends with our hands, and then the shape and size of the spring changes. In this case, the force of our hands changes the shape and size of the spring. The turns of the springs becomes farther apart and its length increases. Here some more examples which a force changes the shape or size of the object. The shape of the duff kneaded wet flour changes by pressing rolling it with pin to make chapatis. When we press the duff with a rolling pin, we are applying the force. So here what we will observe that we have observed that the force can change the shape and the size of the object. So I have told you about that all the effects of the force with the help of the examples. Now we are going to study about the types of the force. The force are divided into two categories. First category is of contact force and second category is of non-contact force. That the contact forces of the examples of the contact forces are muscular force, frictional force, magnetic force, electrostatic force, that we are going to discuss in this chapter one by one. And the examples of the non-contact force are magnetic force, electrostatic force and the gravitational force. So the contact force examples are muscular force and friction, and the non-contact force examples are magnetic force, electrostatic force and the gravitational force. So let's firstly know about that what is contact force. The force which can be exerted by the object on another object through the physical touching is commonly known as contact force. So the force which can be exerted by the object on another object through the physical touching is commonly known as contact force. And there are two examples of the contact force, muscular force and frictional force. Now one by one we are going to know about that what is muscular force and what is frictional force. Now firstly we will know about that what is muscular force with the help of this example. Suppose that a book is lying on a table, and to lift this book from the table some of the force is required. So when we lift this book from the table by hand, the force is exerted by the muscles of our arm, and similarly when we kick a football, the force is exerted by the muscles of our leg. So the force that is exerted by the muscles of our body is commonly known as muscular force. So we can say that the force that is exerted by the muscles of the body is commonly known as muscular force. Both the human beings and animals exerts the muscular force to do the work. The human beings exert the muscular force by performing the various day-to-day activities like walking, running, jumping, climbing, lifting, pushing, pulling, kicking, stretching, squeezing, twisting, pressing the objects. So this is about the muscular force that I have told you. Since the muscular force can be applied to an object only when our body or the body of an animal is in contact with the object, so therefore muscular force is a type of contact force. For example, when we lift a book from a table by applying a muscular force, then our hand is in contact with the book. We cannot lift the book from the table without touching it. So our contact with an object for applying the muscular force can also be through a stick or a piece of rope. For example, when we hit a hockey ball, we are applying the muscular force to the ball through the hockey stick. And when we draw a bucket of water from a well, then we apply the muscular force through a rope tied to the bucket. So we can say that muscular force is a type of contact force. Now second example of the contact force is frictional force, or we can say frictional. Now it can be defined with the help of this example. Suppose that a ball is moving on a ground, it slows down gradually and stops covering the some distance. We know that the force that is required to stop a moving body. This means that the force is exerted by the ground on the moving ball which opposes motion, while this moving ball after covering certain distance comes to rest. This is mainly due to the force that is exerted by the ground on the moving ball which opposes motion, and it brings to stop the ball. This force which opposes the motion of the ball on the ground is commonly known as frictional force. So frictional force is also known as opposing force that opposes the motion of the moving object. The force which always opposes the motion of the one body over the another body is commonly known as frictional force or friction. So we can define the force of friction like this. The force which opposes the motion of one body over the another body is commonly known as frictional force or friction. The frictional force that acts between the two surfaces which are in contact with each other. A ball is moving on a ground, here in this case slows down and then stops due to the frictional force between the ball and the ground. In this case, the two surfaces in contact are the surface of the ground and the surface of the ball. The frictional force, also known as force of friction, or we can say just friction. So here we have observed that the two surfaces are in contact with each other. So frictional force is a type of contact force. So we can say that the frictional force is also a type of contact force, and it arises only when the two surfaces or the objects are in touch with each other. So therefore it is also a type of contact force. Now we are going to study about the non-contact force. The force which can be exerted by the object on another object even from a distance without touching is commonly known as non-contact force. So here the two objects are not in contact with each other. Here the force that is exerted by the one object on the another object even from a distance without touching them. So that's why it is a type of non-contact force. So there are some examples of the non-contact force like magnetic force, electrostatic force and gravitational force that we are going to discuss in this chapter one by one with the help of certain examples. So first one is magnetic force. Now we are going to know about that what is magnetic force. So let's take one example. As we know that the magnet attracts the things that is made up of iron or steel. So when we bring a magnet near the iron nails or pins, then the magnet pulls them towards it. Since the iron nails and the pins that moves towards the magnet, it means that the magnet exerts the force on them. So the force that is exerted by the magnet is commonly known as magnetic force. The magnetic force acts even from a distance. Magnet exerts the magnetic force on object made up of iron, steel, nickel and cobalt. It does not exert a force on object made up of copper, wood or glass. So when we bring a magnet slowly near the iron pins at then a certain small distance, the iron pins suddenly jump towards the magnet and stick to it, even when the magnet has not touched them. Since the magnet can exert its magnetic force on iron objects even from a distance without being touching them, so that's why magnetic force is a type of non-contact force. So we can say that magnetic force is a type of non-contact force. Now next is about the next example is electrostatic force. Now we are going to know about that. What is electrostatic force? The force that is exerted by the electrically charged object is commonly known as electrostatic force. So the force that is exerted by the electrically charged object is known as the electrostatic force. Here the electrically charged object can exert an electrostatic force on uncharged object or another charged object. For example, a plastic comb which is electrically charged by rubbing in dry hair exert an electrostatic force on uncharged tiny pieces of paper and attracts them. If we take a plastic comb and rub it in our dry hair for about a minute, and then bring this comb near the teeny pieces of paper, we will find that the comb attracts the teeny pieces of paper. Here the teeny pieces of paper move towards the comb and stick to it. So when the plastic comb is rubbed in dry hair, the comb gets electric charge by friction. And when this electrically charged comb is bowed near the teeny pieces of paper, it exerts an electrostatic force of attraction on them, and due to this electrostatic force, the teeny pieces of paper move towards the comb and stick to it. Thus the movement on the teeny pieces of paper is due to the electrostatic force that is exerted by the electric charge that is acquired by the comb on rubbing in hair. So it is the electrostatic force which is responsible for raising our body hair when we try to take off our tarlatan or Persian shirt in dry weather, and if an inflated balloon is rubbed with a piece of synthetic cloth like polyester or nylon, then pressed against the wall, the balloon sticks to the wall. It is the electrostatic force which is responsible for the attraction between the balloon and the wall. So when the balloon is rubbed with a piece of synthetic cloth, the balloon gets electrostatic charge, hence gets electrically charged, and this electrically charged balloon attracts the uncharged wall and sticks to it. The electrostatic force can be exerted by a charged object on another object from a distance, even when they are not in touch with each other. So electrostatic force is a type of non-contact force. So it is also a type of non-contact force. Now the third example is gravitational force. Now we are going to know about that. What is gravitational force? This can be explained as follows. Newton said that every object in this universe pulls every other object with a certain force. The pull exerted by the objects possessing mass is known as gravitational force. So we can define the gravitational force like this. The pull that is exerted by the objects possessing mass is known as gravitational force. So the gravitational force between the two objects is a force of attraction. It acts even if the two objects are not connected by any means, and it is the gravitational force between the sun and the earth which holds the earth in its orbit around the sun, and it is the gravitational force between the earth and the moon which holds the moon in its orbit around the earth. So the gravitational force between the two ordinary objects having very small masses is very weak and it cannot be detected. The gravitational force becomes strong only if one of the object has the huge mass like earth. Thus the gravitational pull between the earth and the stone is very large and which can be detected easily. If we drop a stone from a height, it falls down towards the earth. This is because the earth exerts a gravitational force of attraction on a stone and pulls it down. In fact, the earth pulls all the object towards its center, and the force with which the earth pulls all the object towards it is known as force of gravity or just gravity. So gravity is a natural force of attraction or pull. We are pulled to the earth by the force of gravity. For example, when a child falls from a tree, it is the force of gravity which brings the child down to the earth. Similarly, when a diver dives into a swimming pool, it is the force of gravity which brings him down. The force of gravity acts on all the objects. The force of gravity causes all the objects to fall towards the earth. For example, a leaf falls from the tree due to the gravity. A fruit falls down from a tree due to the force of gravity. The rain falls down to the earth due to the force of gravity. When we open a tap, the water begins to flow down towards the ground due to the force of gravity. And the water in the rivers flows downwards due to the force of gravity. So these all are the examples that shows the force of the gravity that is exerted by the earth. So here the gravitational force of the earth acts on all the objects from a distance without there being a physical contact. So therefore the gravitational force or the gravity is an example of non-contact force. So it is also the example of the non-contact force. Now there is one activity, and this activity shows that electrostatic force is a type of non-contact force. As I have already told you about that what is electrostatic force. So in order to perform this activity, what are the materials required? A plastic comb and a piece of paper. So we can perform this activity like this. Take a plastic comb and rub it on your head or a woolen cloth. Then bring it near the pieces of paper without letting the comb to touch the paper. So we will observe that the pieces of paper gets attracted towards the comb even when the comb is not in contact with them. Thus the force that is exerted by the comb on the pieces of paper, and that force is known as electrostatic force, and it is a type of non-contact force. Now there is another example that shows a type of another non-contact force, that is the magnetic force. Here take a magnet and bring it near the iron nails. When you bring it near the iron nails, you will observe that all the iron nails gets attracted by the magnet even the magnet is not touching the nails. This shows that the magnetic force is a type of non-contact force. The force that is exerted by the magnet on the nails is known as magnetic force, and this is also a kind of non-contact force. Here there is one diagram that shows that all the iron pins are gets attracted towards the magnet due to the magnetic force, which is a type of non-contact force. So as I have told you about the contact force, I have told you about the non-contact force also, and I have given you the examples of the non-contact force like magnetic force, like electrostatic force and the gravitational force, and I have explained all these things with the help of the examples. Now we are going to know about the pressure. Pressure is produced when a force acts on an object. When the force acts on an object, then in that case only the pressure is produced. In most of the cases, the object exerts the force on another object by making contact or by touching it. The effect of the force applied by one object on another object depends on the area of contact between the two objects. And this is most important point to be noted, that the effect of the force that is applied by the one object to the another object is mainly depends on the area of contact between the two objects. This will be clear to you with the help of these examples. Firstly, we are going to take one example. If we push hard on a piece of wood with our thumb, the thumb does not go into the wood. But if we push a drawing pin into the wood with the same force of our thumb, then the drawing pin goes into the wood. So this shows that our thumb does not go into the wood because the force of our thumb is falling on a large area of the wood, and due to which the force per unit area, or we can say pressure on the wood, is small. And the drawing pins goes into the wood because due to the sharp tip of the drawing pen, the force of the thumb is falling on a very small area of the wood, and due to which the force per unit area or pressure on a wood becomes large, and this shows that the pressure is the force acting on a unit area of the object. So we can define it: pressure is equal to force upon area. Force acting per unit area is known as pressure. Now the SI unit of pressure is Pascal, and 1 Pascal is equal to 1 Newton per meter square. So we can define it like this: the SI unit of measuring the force is Newton, and the SI unit of measuring the area is square meter. So the SI unit of measuring the pressure is Newton per square meter. Because we are knowing that pressure is equal to force upon area, the SI unit for measuring the force is Newton, and the SI unit for measuring the area is meter square. So the SI unit for measuring the pressure is Newton per square meter. So 1 Pascal is equal to 1 Newton per square meter. 1 Pascal is equal to 1 Newton per meter square, and 1 kilopascal is equal to 1000 Pascal. So the SI unit of the pressure is Pascal, and pressure is equal to force upon area. Pressure mainly depends on two factors. The first factor is force applied, and the second factor is area over which the force acts. The same force can produce the different pressure depend on the area over which it acts. For example, when the force acts over a large area of an object, it produces the small pressure, and if the same force acts over the small area on the object, then it produces the large pressure. So we can say that the pressure is inversely proportional to area. With increase in area, pressure decreases, and with decrease in area, the pressure increases. This can be explained with the help of following example. The first example that we are going to take here is, for example, a school bag. A school bag has a wide strip made up of thick cloth, so that the weight of the bag that is fall over a large area of the shoulder of a child, producing the less pressure on a shoulder. And due to this less pressure, it is more comfortable to carry the heavy school bag. On the other hand, if the school bag has a strap made up of thin string, then the weight of the school bag will fall over a small area of the shoulder, and this will produce a large pressure on the shoulder of a child, and it will become very painful to carry the heavy school bag. So this example shows that with increase in area, the pressure decreases, and with decrease in area, the pressure increases. Now the second example is, why the sharp knife cuts better than blunt knife. So what happens in this case? A sharp knife has a very thin edge to its blade. A sharp knife cuts the objects like vegetables better because due to this very thin edge, the force of our hands falls over a very small area of the object and producing the large pressure. And in this large pressure cuts the object very easily. On the other hand, a blunt knife has a thicker edge, and blunt knife does not cut an object easily because due to its thicker edge, the force of our hand falls over a large area of the object and produces the lesser pressure, and this lesser pressure cuts the objects with very difficulty. So these two examples that I have given you, that shows that with decrease in area, the value of the pressure is increases. So we can say that the pressure is inversely proportional to area. It means that with increase in area, pressure decreases, and with decrease in area, the pressure increases. Now we are going to study about the pressure exerted by the liquids. The pressure also exerted by the liquids. There are different substances like water, oil, alcohol, petrol, mercury. These all are liquids, and all the liquids exert the pressure on the base or bottom and the walls of their containers. You can exert the pressure at the bottom and the walls of the container in which it is kept. Though the pressure that is exerted by all the liquids, but since water is the most common liquid around us, therefore we will be using the water as a liquid in our daily life activities on pressure exerted by the liquids. So this pressure that is exerted by the liquids can be explained to you with the help of this example. All the liquids have weight. all the liquids have weight. So when we pour the liquid into a vessel, then the weight of the liquid pushes down on the base of the vessel, producing a pressure. That weight of the liquid that pushes down on the base of the vessels produces a pressure, and we can say that the liquid exerts the pressure on the base of the vessel. So we can say that the liquid exerts the pressure on the base of the vessel. The vessel containing liquid in it, the weight of this liquid pushes on the base of the vessel, exerts the pressure on the base of the vessel or the bottom of the vessel. So the pressure that is exerted by the liquid can be calculated by using this formula. Pressure is equal to force upon area. Here in this case, the force is the weight of the liquid and area is the area of the base of the vessel in which the liquid is placed. Here in this case, that force is the weight of the liquid and the area is the area of the base of the vessel in which the liquid is placed. So we can calculate the pressure exerted by the liquid by using this formula, and here we will take the force is the weight of the liquid and the area is the area of the base of the vessel in which the liquid is placed. Now we are going to know about the dependence of pressure on the depth of the liquid. So here we can take one example, and with the help of this example we are able to know that with increase in the depth in a liquid, the pressure increases. The pressure in a liquid is not same at all the depth. The pressure that is exerted by the liquid changes with depth in a liquid. Pressure that is exerted by the liquid is not same at all the depth, and this pressure that is exerted by the liquid changes with the depth in the liquid. The pressure that is exerted by the liquid increases with increase in depth inside the liquid, and the pressure that is exerted by the liquid is small, just under the surface of liquid. But as we go deeper in a liquid, the pressure of the liquid increases as the depth of the liquid increases. Thus the weight of the liquid column pushing down from above increases, hence the pressure also increases. So we can say that the depth of the liquid column increases, the weight of the liquid column pushing down from above increases, hence the pressure also increases. This can be explained to you with the help of this activity. In this activity, suppose that take a tall vessels that has the three short thin tubes such as A, B and C at different depth from the top of the vessel. These three tubes are at equal diameters and the cork is fitted into them. Then the vessel is filled with water, and then all the corks are removed quickly. So by removing the corks, we will observe that on removing the corks, the water from the uppermost tube, that is A, is found to travel the shortest distance from the base of the vessel, and the water from the middle tube, that is B, goes a little farther away, whereas the water from the lowermost tube, that is C, shoots out farthest of all. The depth of the water near the tube A is small, so that the water comes out from the tube A with smaller pressure and falls near the bottom of the vessel. The depth of water near the tube B is greater, so the water comes out with greater pressure from the tube B and falls farther away from the base of the vessel. And the depth of the water near the tube C is greatest, so that the water comes out of tube C with greatest pressure and goes farthest from the vessel. This means that the depth of the water increases from A, B to C. The pressure of water gradually increases. So the pressure in a liquid increases with depth. In other words, we can say that greater is the depth of a point in a liquid, greater is the pressure. That the pressure of the water will be less at the depth of 10 meters below the surface of the sea, but it will much greater at the depth of 20 meters below the surface of the sea. So the liquid also exerts the pressure on the walls of the vessels in which they are stored. The sideways pressure exerted by the liquid also increases with the depth of the liquid. And the sideways pressure also increases by increasing the depth of the liquid. So this thing that I have told you with the help of this activity. Now this is about the liquid pressure that I have told you, and there are the different characteristics of liquid pressure. It increases with the depth, and it remains same in all the direction at a given depth, and it depends on the density of the liquid, and the liquid exerts pressure on the side of the container, and the liquid seeks its own level. So these are the certain characteristics of the liquid, and I have told you the first characteristic that it increases with the depth of the liquid. Now I have told you that the liquid exerts the pressure on the walls of the vessels in which they are stored, and the sideways pressure exerted by the liquid also increases with the depth of the liquid. The sideways pressure of a liquid on the walls of the vessels is almost zero at its surface, and as the depth of the liquid increases, the sideways pressure on the walls of the vessels gradually increases, and it becomes maximum at the bottom of the vessel. The wall of the dam is made thicker at the bottom. Then the question arises that why the wall of the dam is made thicker at the bottom than at the top, so as to tolerate the very high sideways pressure exerted by the deep water stored in a reservoir of dam. So this can be demonstrated by some activities. For example, we are going to take one activity here. This activity demonstrates that the liquid exerts the pressure on the walls of the container or the sides of the container. So in order to perform this activity, first of all, take a plastic bottle like a water bottle or soft drink bottle and fix a small glass tube a little above the bottom of the plastic bottle. We can do it by heating the one end of the glass tube and slightly over the burner, and then inserting its hot end quickly into the wall of the plastic bottle. We should seal the joint of the glass tube with a plastic bottle by using the molten wax so that the water does not leak from the joint. Tie the thin sheet of rubber like that form of rubber balloon tightly on the open end of the glass tube. Now fill the half of the plastic bottle with water. We will observe that on filling the water, the rubber sheet tied to the mouth of the glass tube gets stretched and it bulges out. The bulging out of the rubber sheet tied to the glass tube fixed in the wall of the plastic bottle demonstrates that the water that is present in the plastic bottle exerts the pressure on the wall of the plastic bottle, and it is the sideways pressure that is exerted by the water which inflates the thin rubber sheet and forming a bulge. If we pour more water in the plastic bottle to increase the depth, we will see that the bulge in the rubber sheet increases. This indicates that the pressure that is exerted by the water increases by increasing the depth. And from this activity, we will get the conclusion that the liquid exerts the pressure on the walls or the sides of its container, and the pressure that is exerted by the liquid on the walls or the sides of its container increases by increasing its depth. Now there is one activity to shows that the liquid exerts the equal pressure at the same depth. So there is one other activity that shows that the liquid exerts the equal pressure at the same depth. So in order to perform this activity, first of all we will take a plastic bottle, then make two small holes of equal size on two opposite sides of the plastic bottle, some distance above from the bottom of the bottle. The holes should be exactly the same height from the bottom of the plastic bottle. Now fill the plastic bottle with water. We will observe that the two jets of water coming out of the hose falls at the same distance away from the base of the bottle on its either side. The two jets of water that fall at equal distance on two sides of the bottle only if the pressure of the water at the depth of two holes in the bottle is equal. Now from this activity we just come to the conclusion that a liquid exerts the pressure on the walls of its container, and the liquid exerts equal pressure at the same depth because two holes are at the same depth and is at the equal distance from the base of the the plastic bottle. So here the liquid exerts the equal pressure at the same depth. Now we are going to know about the atmospheric pressure. Our next topic is about the atmospheric pressure. Firstly, we know that what is atmosphere. The layer of the air above the earth is commonly known as atmosphere. So the air in our atmosphere extends up about 300 km above the surface of the earth. The atmosphere contains tremendous amount of air. Air has weight, so atmosphere consisting of tremendous amount of air has enormous weight. The weight of the atmosphere exerts the pressure on the surface of the earth and all the objects on the earth, including ourselves, and this pressure is known as atmospheric pressure. So we can define it like this: the weight of the atmosphere that exerts the pressure on the surface of the earth and in all the objects on the earth, including ourselves, and this is known as atmospheric pressure. Or we can say that atmospheric pressure is the air pressure which is exerted by the weight of the air present in atmosphere. Or in other words, we can say that atmospheric pressure is due to the weight of the air present in the atmosphere above us. Atmospheric pressure also acts in all the direction, and this atmospheric pressure also acts in all the direction. So this is about the atmospheric pressure that I have told you. Atmospheric pressure, the atmospheric pressure decreases as we go up in the atmosphere. Atmospheric pressure is the weight of the air in a column of unit area. The SI unit is Pascal. The pressure inside our body is equal to the atmospheric pressure outside, so we are not crushed because of this air pressure. The pressure inside our body is almost equal to the atmospheric pressure outside, so that we are not crushed because of this air pressure. So this is about the atmospheric pressure that I have told you. Now there are certain application of the atmospheric pressure in our daily life. So just we are going to discuss about all these things in our next part, that is the part second of this chapter. So I will tell you about that, what are the application of the atmospheric pressure, and what is the magnitude of the atmospheric pressure and the pressure exerted by the gases. So here there is one picture that shows that stretching a rubber band, pressing a sponge, squeezing a spring, an object that will return to its original shape and size after being squeezed and pressed, twisted and stretched is elastic. So these are the examples of the certain objects which are elastic in nature and it comes back to their original shape and size. So their shape gets changed, their size gets changed by applying the force on it. So the object will return to its original shape and size after being squeezed, pressed or twisted is commonly known as elastic objects, and these all are the examples of the elastic objects. There is a relation between the force and pressure. There is relation between the force and pressure. Push and pull is commonly known as force. So by pushing or pulling we are applying the force, and here we are applying the force that is applied to the pump that produces the air pressure. Means the force that is applied by the pump, pushing and pulling is commonly known as force. By pushing and pulling means that we are applying the force, and by applying the force that is applied to the pump that produces the air pressure in the tire. So there is a relation between the force and pressure. Pressure is equal to force upon area. We have known that pressure is equal force acting per unit area is commonly known as pressure. So these are the certain topics that I have explained you today. Still some topics are remaining in this chapter that we are going to cover in our next part of this chapter, force and pressure. So these topics that I have told you must revise all the topics, and whatever the questions related to the topics that I have taught you today, must try to complete it yourself, and try to learn also, and complete your work on time. So students, do your studies well. Thank you.